Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Happy New Year. Today, I just have a short, I think. I always say that, and then I end up going close to 20 minutes. So, just a short little share for you. I talked a little bit about, things that piss you off last week and an encounter that I had with a person at an event that I went to where it was in a dark arena, a musical performance, and they were recording it and their screen was super bright. And we asked them to turn the brightness down, and they got so upset, crying, pissed off, very angry, ruined their experience. And so I wanted to kind of touch on today about what things cost you, that everything we do has a cost, not necessarily a physical money cost. And everything has a cost. It might have a physical energy cost. I went out and shoveled the front walk. That had a physical energy cost. After I shoveled the walk, I decided to create a snowman. So I built a snowman, and that had a physical cost, and it actually created emotional energy for me. That was one thing that actually didn't cost. Yes, it cost me physical energy, and it created emotional energy for me. It was fun. And so there are, depending on things that we do, it either is going to have a positive or negative effect on our energy. And part of the reason I share this is some of you may or may not know that who I coach, I do all sorts of leadership development, team development, and I will coach any leader. And who I really am passionate and feel very strongly about coaching are women who are strong and powerful, and who have been given the feedback that they are too powerful. They're too much. They're too overpowering. They're too aggressive. They're too loud. They're too, whatever it is, whatever that feedback is, bitchy, maybe even, or pushy kinds of things. And I coach those women to really come back into a sense of their own self and their own personal power without being overpowering. And part of the reason I do that coaching is because that was me. Earlier in my career, I got a lot of what I used to call does not play well with others on my report card. And my husband and I playfully called it that. And one of the things that I realized was that the work I was doing was draining me. And I didn't realize it. You may think that's ridiculous. If something drains you, you know it. You don't. And I'm going to tell you, some of you may be expending an awful lot of energy doing things and not realizing the energy cost that it has to you. And so you're not necessarily filling yourself up before or replenishing after. And that can take a toll. And that is where I believe a lot of the does not play well with others, the aggression, the reactivity is what it is. It's the reactivity. It's us seeing things going on outside of ourselves and not having the space to decide. And we'll talk about that more maybe next week. What I want to really just talk about is this energy cost. I was a project manager, and it had an energy cost. The activities that I did, I got very good at. It wasn't that I was bad at what I was doing. I was good. I was a good project manager. And because I didn't realize how much energy it took to actually do those tasks that weren't necessarily aligned to my core gifts, my talents, very big difference to me, the way I coach and the way I teach, is there's a big difference between talents and gifts and talents and skills. Okay. I developed a skill for project management. It is not a core gift or talent. I developed the skill. I got very good at it. And because it's not a core gift or talent, because it's not necessarily aligned to all of the preferences that I have in my core being, my personality, it takes more energy. And now I can do those things. I still have the skill, and I have the awareness and the space to know that I need to energize before I go and do those kinds of tasks. When I have to do a ton of work on spreadsheets, I know that I have to go into it at a time when I have a lot of energy, not right after lunch. I have to make sure that I have some time afterwards. I work a lot from home. I might even go lay down. I might go take a walk. I need something to replenish me after I do those kinds of tasks. When we're not aware of this and we just go from thing to thing to thing to thing, and we're doing some of these tasks that are costing us energy and we don't realize it, then we don't have the reserves. We don't have that energetic space, that mental space, that emotional space to be able to observe something out there that might trigger us and be able to create that pause, that observing, that space of observance, and then choose how we want to respond. I was on a call. It's a bigger call than this, but for me, it's a part of a Milwaukee Women Leaders group. And the woman really talked about, do you want to leave your leadership to chance? Do you want to lead based on chance or by choice? Do you want to lead by choice? And this is regardless if you're a leader or an employee or just in your life. Do you want to leave it to chance or do you want to use choice? In order to have choice, you have to be able to create space between what's happening outside of you and how you react or respond. That's a lot of what I work with individuals on in my coaching, and ways that we can create that space. Oftentimes, and I will tell you, I was able to do that with this woman at the Trans-Siberian Orchestra concert. I had that ability to create the space. I'm still working on it with family. I had a situation where I was on a Zoom call with my family for this book club that we're doing, and I reacted to something. One of my sisters, I have 5 sisters, one of my sisters asked me a question and I reacted. And it wasn't in a nice way. I got very defensive and I felt really horrible about it afterwards. And I noticed it like immediately after I did it. I noticed it immediately. So it's one of those where it's not like I didn't even recognize that I reacted in a less than helpful way. I did recognize it, and I recognized it immediately after I said it. And I apologized, and I even called her up afterwards and made sure that we were good, because I just felt really bad because I just jumped on her. And so sometimes, with people that we are so familiar with like that, there's so many patterns of reaction with my siblings sometimes that it's still hard to create that space sometimes, because I've had that habit for a very long time. Now with others out in public, with people I work with, I've created, for the most part, there's every once in a while it'll still come up, but being able to create that space. So first, we started this talking about what is it costing you? And I actually have an energy assessment. If you're interested, DM me and I will link you to it, where you can take an assessment of really every area of your life and begin to look at, first of all, you start to categorize where, what category, what type of activity is this? Is it a physical health? Is it spiritual? Is it work related? Is it play related? And there's 7 different categories. And you first categorize them. And then you look at it's a 3-part video series that I have that you can check out. And the second piece, the first piece is to just list everything you do, like in work, in personal life, everything. And you put, what's on your plate, what's on your table. Then you categorize it into these categories. And then you look at what's the primary emotion related to those. And when you start to see a pattern of what people might refer to as negative, or I refer to as a constricting emotion, you can start to see where might there be some energy drains, where might there be some energy leaks, where might be there activities, where are the activities that are draining me that I'm not really even realizing it. And now I have some choice of what I want to do with those. And so really, I want you to start to think about the different activities, the different things in your life, and what is it costing you from an energy perspective? Because when we are, and I'm sure you have heard this before, you cannot give from an empty cup. You cannot jump a battery with a dead battery. So really being more in tune with and conscious of where our energy is at throughout the day, because when we're drained, we're not going to have that space, that capacity to be able to respond, to be able to pause, observe. And that's another actual freebie that I'm working on. I should have it hopefully next week, all set up for people to download, maybe even by the end of this week, but probably next week, where really going through that process of pausing, observing what's going on in my head, what emotions are starting to rise, and then making a choice. And yes, this happens in a very short period of time, and it takes practice. So if you don't know what drains you, if you don't know the things that are draining your energy, first of all, it's going to drain the shit out of you without you even realizing it. And that's what I was talking about earlier when I was a project manager. Oftentimes, we get into the habit of doing, next thing. We are so jam-packed. Our schedules are jam-packed at work. We come home and we might be running kids from here to there. We're making dinner. We're cleaning the house. We're doing all of these different things, going from doing to doing, that we lose touch with our being. We lose touch with our energy. We lose touch with our intuition. If you don't know what drains you, and if you are not conscious about filling yourself up before you have to do tasks, and maybe there's a way to delegate those, but sometimes we still have to do those kinds of tasks. Anything managing financials, for me, I have to be energized. I have to be filled up. I have to have a little bit of reserve to do those things. It depends. I mean, you may be able to delegate some of those things. You may be able to just divest them, get rid of them, don't do them anymore. But you will burn out. If you are not aware of what drains you, you will burn out. And then the third thing, and your relationships will suffer. If you are not aware of what drains you and what fills you up, and that you're managing, you're starting to really be conscious about where you're expending your energy, where you're filling up your energy, and really giving yourself that space to have the energy be really filled up when you're doing the things that really matter. And maybe there are things that are draining, and you can be more, you can do things that are more menial, that don't take that much mental energy when you're not in the highest energetic space. But your relationships will suffer if you are in this constant going, doing, and you lose touch and you're in that reactivity mode, then your relationships will suffer. When you don't refill your cup, you're giving to the people you care about the most, the relationships you care about the most. And whatever those are, whether you have a significant other, whether you have children, parents, siblings. When we did this Zoom that I was talking about with my siblings, it was the end of the day. I was kind of energized, but by the end of the hour that we talked, I was kind of coordinating things on the call, trying to make sure everybody had a chance to speak, taking some notes because I was interested in some of the comments people were making. And it was starting to get, I was at the end of my energy by the end of the call. And that's when my sister asked me a question that just set me off. So when we are not aware of what really drains us, when we're not aware of what really fills us up, and that we are being conscious about those activities, it's going to drain you, and your physical, mental, emotional state will deteriorate. You will burn out, and your relationships will suffer. And I will tell you, your physical health will suffer. And there's a lot more around that we could talk about. And that's when we start to get sick. That's when serious illnesses start to pop up because we haven't been taking care of our body. Our body, lets us know. I got that way. I got into a doing, really core cycle in November and into the early part of December, and I got sick. And there were some other things that, based on what I was putting in my body and not putting in my body, in terms of food and supplements, and I got sick. And then I got sick again. And then I got sick again. I had 3 different illnesses in December. And it was crazy because I'm usually never sick like that. I got COVID 2 years ago. And before that had been a couple of years before I was sick. So it's not, I don't get sick often, but my body was like, all right, time out. We need to approach this differently. You need to do something different. And so I had started to lose touch. So it's not a process where this is going to happen and it's going to be fixed. It is a continuous journey of coming back in touch with ourselves, coming back in touch with what fills us up and what drains us. I hope this was helpful. Have a great rest of your week. If you've got any questions, if you're looking for those freebies, one of them, I will go back out and I will put the freebie in the comments for the energy assessment. And then when I have the second one, I will, if you're interested in the second one, let me know and I'll make sure I send you that link. DM me. And hope you have a great rest of your week.